A tourist standing in an airport in Milan watches a huge Singapore Airlines jet pull up to the gate. It's the kind of plane built to cross oceans, and here it is, about to make a short hop over to Barcelona. Singapore is on the other side of the planet. So, why is one of its jets running a quick little flight between two European cities that have nothing to do with it? It looks like a mistake. Like somebody typed the wrong thing into a computer. But it isn't a mistake at all. It's completely legal, it happens every single day all over the world, and the reason goes back to a decision made before the first passenger jet had even been built. Once you know what's really going on, you'll start spotting these strange flights everywhere. These odd routes are not rare. They're not one-time trips or special charters. They're normal scheduled flights you can book online right now. A jet from an airline based in one country, flying between two totally different foreign countries, carrying paying passengers the whole way? On paper, it makes no sense. Airlines are supposed to fly out from their home and come back to it, not set up shop thousands of miles away. And yet they do. To understand why, you have to forget about modern planes and fancy technology completely. The answer is buried in an old agreement signed way back in 1944. Back then, the Second World War was almost over. People could see it ending, and they realized something. When the fighting stopped, the world would suddenly be flooded with aeroplanes that had been built for the war, and thousands of pilots with nothing to fly. All of that was about to spill into regular travel. So, leaders from more than 50 countries met at a hotel in Chicago to make some rules before things turned into a free-for-all. Think of it as writing the laws of the sky before anyone knew who owned what up there. Out of that meeting came a set of basic rights. Most of them were simple, and nobody argued much. The right to fly over another country. The right to land somewhere if your plane had an emergency. Fair enough? But one of these rights was different, and it's the one that quietly changed everything. It said an airline could start a flight in its own country, land in a second country to let some passengers off and pick new ones up, and then keep going to a third country. That one rule is the whole story. Today, that sounds like a sneaky trick invented to make money. But in 1944, it was nothing of the sort. It existed because planes back then simply couldn't fly very far. The airliners of that era were amazing machines for their time, but their fuel tanks were small. Crossing an entire ocean without stopping was flat out impossible. So, a plane going a long way had to land 3 or 4 times just to fill up on fuel. And that created a money problem. Every time a plane landed, the airline had to pay fees and pay for fuel. Worse, imagine a passenger who bought a ticket only partway and got off at one of those fuel stops. Now that seat is empty for the rest of the trip, but the airline is still burning fuel to drag it along. Flying halfway across the world with empty seats is a fast road to going broke. That new rule fixed the whole thing. It let an airline act like a bus that just happens to travel across the globe. The Dutch airline KLM is the perfect example. They used to fly all the way from the Netherlands to what is now Indonesia, and it took days. The plane had to stop in city after city to refuel, places like Cairo, Baghdad, and Bangkok, one after another. Without that rule, KLM would have lost money on every trip. But instead, they were allowed to sell tickets between those stops. They could pick up a traveler in one city and drop him off at the next, then fill that same seat with someone new heading further along. By selling seats at every single stop, they slowly paid off the enormous cost of the whole journey. The fuel stop stopped being a burden and started making money. Then planes got better. By the 60s, new jets could fly much farther and faster. Suddenly, a plane could cross an ocean in one go without stopping for fuel. You'd think the old rule would just fade away at that point, since nobody needed those refueling stops anymore. But the world is a big place, and even the new jets couldn't reach everywhere in one hop. So the airlines found a new use for that same old rule. American airlines like Pan Am pulled off something clever. They'd fly a big jet across the ocean into Tokyo, packed with passengers. Instead of dragging that same plane deeper into Asia half empty, they'd unload everyone in Japan. Then they kept a fleet of smaller planes based right there in Tokyo. They'd mix the arriving travelers together with local Japanese passengers and send them off in every direction, to Seoul, to Manila, all over. Because that old rule let them sell tickets between Tokyo and those cities, these became their own money-making routes. European airlines did the exact same thing on their side of the world, setting up bases in places like Bangkok and Singapore to reach further into Asia and Australia. A rule made for pure survival had turned into a tool for taking over whole regions. Now let's come to today. Modern planes like the 787 and the A350 can link almost any two big cities on Earth without stopping. A flight from New York straight to Singapore is just a normal day now, so the old rule really should have retired for good. But instead, it changed shape one more time, and this is where it gets interesting. Airlines looked at this 80-year-old rule and saw a weapon. Since the right was written into law permanently, they could still legally run flights between two foreign countries whenever they wanted. So they started hunting for busy, expensive routes where the local airlines were charging a lot or offering a poor experience, and they attacked those routes directly. This is why Emirates flies a giant jet every day between New York and Milan. It isn't stopping there on the way home to Dubai. It's deliberately dropping premium seats onto one of the richest routes in the world and stealing the wealthy business travelers away from the American and European airlines that thought they owned it. There's one more reason these strange flights exist, and it comes down to cold, hard math. A plane only earns money when it's flying. When a big jet lands somewhere in the morning, it often has to sit at the airport for 10 or 12 hours until its evening flight home. That's a machine worth hundreds of millions of dollars, just sitting there, doing nothing, running up parking fees. So, instead of letting it rest, the airline sends it out on a quick, profitable little trip in the meantime. That's the real reason Singapore Airlines runs that short hop between Milan and Barcelona. The plane was going to be idle anyway, so they squeeze one more paying flight out of it. Every hour that plane exists, they wring money out of it. So, the rule that was born just to keep planes from running out of fuel over the ocean has become the ultimate tool for making money anywhere on the map. The next time you're in Miami, you might notice you can catch a Middle Eastern airline for a short trip down to Colombia. It feels like a glitch. It feels like something nobody was supposed to allow. But it's not a glitch at all. It's the direct result of a choice people made back in 1944, long before jets existed, quietly shaping the skies we fly through today.